Hi there, I'm Trish. I'm with the Natick Community Organic Farm, and we're glad you're here today. We're going to show you around and give you a little tour. So let's go. We're going to start over here at our market stand. Natick Community Organic Farm exists because there was a group of people in the early 70s who saw that there were a bunch of youth who really could use some employment. And it was the Back to the Land movement, and these very foresighted adults said, why don't we put together a gardening program where the kids can grow vegetables, they'll learn a skill in the process, and they can pay themselves by actually selling what they grow. So that was the beginning of the project. It started with maybe a dozen or 2 dozen kids, and it was at a different site than this one is today. At the same time, the town of Natick was going through this giant population boom, and the school committee said we need to really acquire some more land in case we need to build another middle school. So they took this property by eminent domain in 1974, and so that little group of farming teens approached the school committee and said, look, until you figure out what you're going to do with the farm, could we please use the fields? So fast forward 30 years, and here we still are. We still run that teen program. It's morphed a little bit over time, but now we also see over 15,000 visitors a year who come because we're a free public access farm. People are welcome to walk around every day during daylight hours. There's no admission fee. So if you or your child's attention span is 15 minutes, you can come for 15 minutes. And if it's 4 hours and 15 minutes, you're welcome too. So it works out really well. We support ourselves by raising certified organic vegetables, small fruits, humanely raised meats like pork, chicken, and beef. And we also do a number of other things throughout the year because we're a small diversified farm to raise income, such as making maple syrup and seedlings. So we're going to walk over to our market stand and I can show you what's for sale today. Okay, so this is one of our many market stands at the farm. We sell everything out of this stand on the honor system. So you pick out what you want and you write down on the clipboard what you bought and you put your cash in the box and make yourself some change. And if you need more change, you come in and visit us in the workshop and we help you out. Right now we have some really beautiful perennials that are for sale, and as you can see, the kids are updating the chalkboard with the crops that are for sale. It changes daily what we have. So this time of year, which is late June, we have lots of greens, we have spinach, we have chard, we have lettuce mix. We have garlic scapes, which is the top of the garlic, which has great garlic flavor. And we take it off this time of year so that the plant puts its energy back into the bulb. Everything that we grow from our gardens is certified organic. We are firm believers and supporters and advocate of gardening in tandem with nature and not using chemical input. So everything is done in a very healthy manner. And if you come shop from us, you know that your food is grown locally. You know the people who grow it. You can ask them questions if you have questions, and it'll be super fresh. So it'll last a good long time for you in your fridge, and because it's fresh, it will be very nutritious. So we encourage you to come down and go shopping. The kids will be opening our stand on Route 16 any day now because our summer programs have just begun. And so that stand is run by kids who are aged 11 and up. And they are paid by selling the vegetables. They get a percentage based on the number of hours they work, so they have a real vested interest in what they're selling. So they might be very enthusiastic about yelling at your car as they're driving by. I hope you'll stop, and you hope that you'll purchase some things from them, because not only are they selling food, but they're learning about all sorts of things in the process. They're learning about talking to people, they're learning about making eye contact with people, they're learning about merchandising, they're learning about making change in their heads. It's a very good job training skill. So thanks for shopping with us, and thanks for being patient as they work things out up there. So this is our barn. This was built in 1815. One of the amazing things about this property in general is that we can trace its agricultural history basically from the founding of Natick in 1651 forward. And we know that this land has been a farm in one form or another ever since. So generations past that owned this property built this barn in 1815. So we're coming up on our 200-year birthday for the barn. And it's a post and beam barn. And it's just a truly fantastic structure. And I think it's one of the things that draws a lot of people here, along with the animals when they first come. And then that helps to open their eyes to some of the other things that we do. But we use it as a real working barn. We store hay up in the loft, and like any good farm, we have our collection of supplies that we need for our work, so they're all in here. And we also, over here, we use the stalls to brood baby animals. So we had a collection of baby and teen chickens in here, and the kids are now cleaning out the stall because those birds have grown up enough that we can move them outside. But right now, we also have our turkeys. They came in a week or two ago. These are 2-week-old turkeys. If you've... Come here, Sleepy. So turkeys come in as day-old chicks called poults from a turkey hatchery. And they're little, they're babies, and like babies you have to coddle them a little bit. So they live in here for a while under lights where they have heat and they have warmth and they have water and food, and we keep a good eye on them. And when they get big enough and strong enough, they're going to go outside to our turkey house where they can go outside every day and run in the fields and chase bugs and do things that turkeys like to do. We find that that is a really humane way to raise an animal that you're going to eat for meat. They live a very good, dignified life. Makes them a healthier bird because they're getting exercise and outdoor time and sunlight. And I know I'm completely biased, but I think we grow the best tasting Thanksgiving turkeys I've ever had. They are delicious, they're moist. There's not such a big difference between the dark meat and the light meat. It's a terrific tasting turkey. So I encourage you to make the investment, because they are a little pricey, because we feed them organically. But I encourage you to make the investment and try one of our birds. So one of the things that makes our farm both special and incredible is that we include as many people as possible in the actual farming, and we never make up work. So if you're here volunteering on a day when we're picking asparagus, you're going to pick asparagus. And if you're here on a day when we're shoveling out a chicken coop, you get to shovel too. For many people, this is their first introduction to agricultural work. Not everyone loves it, but quite a few people really do enjoy the actual participation in an authentic process. For a lot of kids, it's the first time they're held truly accountable for a job, because we're expecting them to learn how to do something and depending on them to do it. And that's an incredibly valuable life lesson. Time and again, we've seen people build a lot of confidence here. So we're on the old farm driveway right now. The old farmhouse that this barn is associated with still stands up on Route 16 that way. And if you look at this row of trees up the driveway here, these are all sugar maples that were planted by a farmer long ago who was making maple syrup. We still use them to tap in late February and early March. We make roughly 180 gallons of syrup a year. There's no such thing as an exact amount because it's all completely weather dependent. And unlike other syruping operations, we tap trees all over Natick, Wellesley, Framingham, and other places and collect the sap and bring it here to boil. So it's truly a community project. It's delicious tasting syrup, if I do say so. And it's a lot of fun, and we encourage you to come down and take a tour of the sugar shack during the sugaring season. So over here we have our rabbits. We try very hard to make sure that all our animals lead a good life. So our rabbits get to come outside every day, they get to dig holes. This whole caged area is fenced underneath the soil so that they're not supposed to escape that way. It's not to say that they don't escape occasionally, we have to chase them down, but we sell the rabbits as pets. We also have a toddler garden over here, which is a favorite amongst the kids. We really encourage people to come to the farm to really engage in it. And this toddler garden allows small kids to touch things, get up close and smell them, really get a good look at plants. And it serves a dual purpose because we also pick flowers from it. we have a large cut flower operation here at the farm, and it's growing every year. We grow really, really pretty things. They're often picked and sold on the same day, so they're super fresh. So we run a diversified farm, meaning that we raise and grow different crops throughout the year, as any true New England farm would, to make income. And one of the things that we raise and grow are animals. We keep a small collection of animals. So at the moment we have 5 pigs, a cow who's about to birth any day, a small flock of goats and sheep, about 100 chickens, about 100 turkeys. We keep honeybees and rabbits. And we also have a barn cat and a couple of barn dogs. So these are our pigs. They live a very good piggy existence, I think. We breed our sow every year so that she has a litter in the early spring. And then we keep on anywhere between 3 to 4 of her babies for slaughtering in the fall. And we send them off to a registered slaughterhouse and get back pork chops and sausage and all sorts of things, and it's delicious. The bacon is truly to die for. But pigs are a very useful animal on the farm. They are good at eating just about anything, so you can give them, leftover compost and food scraps. They're very good at rooting in the ground, so you can use them to help clear land. They're very smart animals, so you have to account for that when you're building their fencing to make sure that they can't get out. But we enjoy having them, and the animals are something that draws a lot of families here for the first time. Once they get here, though, they discover that there's so much more to the farm, so they're a good thing. This is our composting facility over here. It's called the composting pad. We built that this winter. It's a 3-bay composting facility with a cement floor to it. And the idea behind it is that compost, which is something our farmer has always said is our #1 crop because it's what we use for fertilizer and soil improvement. When compost is made and starts to break down, if you can contain it on something where the nutrients don't get leached out of it by rainwater, it's better. So this structure will allow us to make big amounts of compost and turn it and not lose any of the nutrients in it to rainwater, which is both good for us and good for the environment. So we keep about 100 hens. We have a mix of birds that are called layers, which are chickens that are reliable in laying eggs, and broilers, which are slightly plumper birds and make for better eating, which is not to say that layers don't lay eggs. I mean, that broilers don't lay eggs and that layers make bad fried chicken, but it's just a semantic thing. But in the fall, we always have whole chickens for sale. Again, it's delicious. It's a little bit less of an investment than a 30-pound turkey, and they make fantastic gravy. So I know I'm biased, but a single 5 or 6 pound chicken, you can get 4 or 5 meals out of for a family of 4 if you roast it and make soup and stir fry and all those great things. So, and it's the best tasting chicken you're going to eat. There really is a vast superior quality to a free-range chicken, and I encourage you all to try one and tell me what you think. So we intensively farm on about maybe 2 acres of the land that we have here. The rest of it's in pasture and woodlands and wetlands. So we try and make the most of the growing space that we have. We do garden organically, which means without synthetic or chemical amendments. And in the over 30 years that we've been here, the fertility of this soil has just become phenomenal through the yearly additions of things like compost. We rotate our crops, as any good gardener or farmer does, so that crops become less susceptible to disease. And we raise and sell, if I had to guess, I'd say 50 different crops every year. So what is available for sale changes. This is the time of year when we're selling lots of our food. The kids will be opening the roadside stand up on Route 16 shortly. That's open Monday through Friday in late June, July, and August. We also sell at the Natick Farmers Market on Saturday mornings from 9 to 1. We're at the Framingham Farmers Market on Thursdays, which is on the Village Green in Framingham, and I believe the market's open from 12:30 to 5. And we're also participating in the online portion of the Wellesley Farmers Market this year. We'll be posting what we have for sale. People can advance order it through the website that the Wellesley Market has. And we're hoping that that's going to lead us to some new customers in Wellesley. So many, many outlets. We also sell every day from the barn stand. And we also sell to a place called City Feed and Supply in Jamaica Plain. So we have a little bit of an urban outlet now, which is neat to think that our produce is making it back into the city.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Conversations. Today we are not in the studio, as you can immediately tell. We're not at our round table. We are here at the Natick Community Organic Farm, and we are delighted to be here on a beautiful day to be able to record this program.
Thank you for bringing the nice weather with you. That was a good thing. You can come back anytime you want.
It's our pleasure. We'll do it often. Trish Ambrell is here. Trish is the farm administrator for the Natick Community Organic Farm, and we are delighted to be able to be here to take a tour, to meet some of the staff, volunteers, and children who are here, and others who are just enjoying this as we are. And so Jeff and I are privileged to be here doing this on location today. Trish, thank you very much, and thank you for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
It's a great organization and quite a history. I'm first quite interested in the fact that obviously this land goes back to the time of praying Indians and has been farmed for a number of years, and the historical factor of this.
Yes, I'm very interested in sort of the history of this farm, and it sort of grew out of two questions, which is where did our barn come from and what did people grow on this land before we were here? And through research and from help from the Natick Historic Society and some really good people, we've learned that this land, this 27 acres that we are on, has been part of a farm since the founding of Natick in 1651, and records from the people who founded Natick and settled it at first point to the fact that there were probably Native Americans who were also farming and using this land. The Native Americans at the time were people who migrated between the shore and to their farming land. The women did the farming, and they practiced slash and burn agriculture and moved off when the land became less fertile, and there was evidence that the land in this area had been farmed by the native peoples even before the founding of the town. So it's still a work in progress. We're still trying to track all the history of the farm, and I would encourage anyone who's got any historic photos of the farm, and in particular the barn, if you have them, we'd love to get them here at the farm, so give us a shout. But we know that this has been a farm pretty continuously since the early 1600s. And it's gone through lots of different uses, everything from being a dairy and horse farm through being part of a cut flower growing operation. Today it's a 27-acre property. We intensively farm on about 2 acres. We have about 10 acres of pasture, and the rest is in woodlands and wetlands.
Right. So there's a fair amount, obviously, to work with in and of itself, and then you have the semblance with all of the rest of the kind of conservation or land that's here to kind of support the farm process by having all of that on top of that.
Yes, in 2009 this land was declared conservation land, which is just tremendous because it means it will never be developed. And the conservation land, that title adds a wonderful level to it because people seek out the conservation land to come for walks and bring their dogs and to enjoy the property. So.
And yet people have also lived here, notably a great friend of Natick who unfortunately has passed of recent time, and that's Harriet Buckingham. And I note on your website you have a photo of her as a child on this property.
Yes, Harriet Buckingham is an absolute gem. She was the daughter of a caretaker for when this was a horse farm in the 1930s. And Harriet spent some of her childhood years here. And Harriet's family was really kind and provided us with copies of some absolutely priceless images of Harriet here as both a toddler and as a, you know, a young woman, and it gives us a real historic sense of the property. Harriet was an amazing woman. Anybody who knew her or knew of her work could tell you that. But the way she touched the farm is that not only did she grow up here and then but she came back as an adult to be on the board, and she and I served on the board together for years, and she was just a tireless worker behind the scenes, getting things done. And I feel very privileged to have known her and how of her work here at the farm. And in her memory, we planted a sugar maple. So now there's a tree, a Harriet tree, which when it's large enough, we'll tap, and every time I look at it, I think of Harriet and the time she spent here, and just a really amazing woman, and an example to us all. So
that's wonderful. That's great. Now, you do mention, in part of the tour, of course, some of the rest of the history, for which we'll leave you to explain in that portion. But of course, the Elliott Church, Lions, and of course the resources of the town, and human services and youth and human services have also played a very important part, and of course the school department.
Yes, the farm has a really interesting and a slightly complex history, but most nonprofit organizations do. It originally came about as an idea in the early 70s, where a group from the Elliott Church and the rec department saw that the teens of the town really could use some more summer employment, that they were getting into some trouble in downtown, and it was the Back to the Land movement, and they said, let's get them together, teach them agriculture. They can actually pay themselves through selling what they're growing. So we owe a very large debt to folks like George Ames and Bob Brack and Mark Winnie, who was with the early person with what became the Natick Parks and Recreation Department, and countless others who carried on after them. But those are three of the founding people of the farm.
Right, right, exactly. So it really has quite a history to it. A lot of people have been involved in it, and certainly continue to be, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The farm, of course, being developed, and you're coming up on 40 years pretty soon in terms of a milestone of that.
And it's terrific to be approaching this in such a good place. We have now a lot of families like mine who can point to their multi-generational contact with this farm. You know, I was a kid here. Now my children are coming here for summer programs too, and I'm not alone. I mean, we meet people from all over Natick and also beyond who have come here, whether they were children in school programs or came through our summer programs or just came for a visit with mom and dad on the weekend, whose lives have been touched by this, and now that they are having families of their own, they're coming back. So
right.
That's pretty, it's a really neat place to be.
As you're doing, and you and Linda, and I'm sure others here, have very interesting personal experiences of growing up with the association here on the farm, and then going off and coming back and so forth. Tell us a little about yours. I was quite fascinated to hear your story of...
Okay, well, I first came here on a school field trip when I was a kindergartner, and I remember it. I can even tell you what shirt I had on and all those things. It made a big impact on me. And then my mother signed me up for summer programs here, and I just kind of fell in love with the whole idea. It was really the first place where I felt very comfortable as a kid, and I learned a lot about gardening and growing food, and it was hard work and it was hot work, but it was really rewarding. So I ended up staying for 4 or 5 summers, helping to run the market stand and do other things. It helped develop my interest in farming and agriculture and horticulture, and so I ended up going off to school to study those things in college, and I ended up combining it with another interest of mine, which is communication and working as a magazine editor. But I never really left the farm, because during that time I was serving on the board, and now I'm back as an adult, helping out with things like the PR and the event planning, and it's an amazing thing to me. This is something that has just provided continuity for me, and it's always been a place I've been able to come when you know, when I have lots going on in my life, I can come, and if things are getting to be a bit much, I can go weed, you know, and just sort of enjoy and be, and it's a very welcoming place and a very good place that way, and I feel privileged to be part of it still. So
no, that's great, and we appreciate the kind of the community feeling that we very quickly note here in terms of people who are involved in every aspect of what's done. You know, it doesn't seem like a hierarchy kind of concept at all. Everyone pitches in to get the job done and to eat together and to be able to basically be a community together.
it is fun. I mean, obviously we have some people who are in charge of the animals and growing the vegetables because you need a little bit of that, but it is very much a community place. We want the public to come. We want them to participate. Right. We want them to feel like it's a part of their lives and something that they can take pride in. So we do a good job, I think, of mixing together people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, in the actual doing of the farm work. So it works on a number of levels. We get the work accomplished that we need to get done on a small farm. They learn how to do the work, so they're becoming skillful and empowered. And it also teaches people to work together with others, and that could be maybe if you've never worked with someone who's 16, you know, because you're 60, or you've never maybe worked with someone who has a disability or has autism. We set those things aside and we come together to get the work done. So it can be a very powerful lesson in learning to see the strengths of others and to support each other in areas that might not be a strength. And I see that happening time and time again here. I think it just makes better, compassionate people, and good, strong community comes of it. So
now we're doing this and taking kind of a snapshot of this on a one given day here, but obviously farming is really what, a 365-day-a-year process. What happens in the dead of winter in terms of getting, you know, when does the growing season start, or does it ever stop?
That's a really good question. You know, it's really tempting to give you a flip answer and say, oh, we all go to Florida in the winter, but we don't.
Right.
Because a small diversified farm like ours really does have a year-round work to do and an income stream. So our year starts in January. We've got wonderful salad mix growing in our greenhouses. In February and March, we're making maple syrup. We're starting organic seedlings, which we sell to the public in March, April, and May, and our own seedlings that we're transplanting out to the gardens. Our early spring crops start coming in May and June, and then we get into the heavy garden season, July, August, September. Fall is the season of meat, so we have chicken and pork and occasionally beef. And then the next thing you know, we're planting those greenhouses again with those winter mesclun mixes. And so it never really stops, which is good and also sometimes tiring. But it means that there's always something going on here, and there's always something that's for sale, and it proves that it can be done here in New England.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, in New England people think about being the seasons and so forth, and that maybe farming doesn't occur in the winter, or they think of certain images that happen or don't happen. But in reality, with greenhouses and other kinds of things, you're really working at it all year round.
We are. I mean, it does get a little blessedly quiet in the winter, which is good, because that's the time when we do a lot of long-term preparation. You know, we're figuring out the crops we're going to grow the following year. We're ordering the seeds. We're making longer-term plans. Big picture thinking can happen then, because the rest of the year sometimes we're a little full out, as they say, trying to keep up with the weeds and the watering and the weather and the picking. But yeah, it's never dull.
Right, exactly. Now the maple syrup syruping that you do here certainly has become quite a staple of your operation. The whole process of doing it is something that I think fascinates a lot of people. And then of course the ability to make and then to bottle and package and to be able to sell makes for quite a production in early to mid-spring, I'm sure.
I think we have a unique syruping operation. Number one, it's considered an old-fashioned operation because we're still hanging buckets on trees, and other organizations have resorted to tubing to get the sap in from the trees. But we also have a policy that if of tapping sugar maple trees all over town. So we're in Natick and Framingham and Wellesley and Sherburne and collecting sap. So you'll see the buckets go up. So we tap is often during February school vacation because our labor force is available to help us, which is kids who are 11 and older, and we hang about 700 taps all over town, and we collect the sap daily as long as the weather allows, and we bring it back to our sugar shack, which is at the top of the drive, and we have a wood-fired evaporator where we boil the sap into syrup. And in a good year we'll make over 300 gallons, and in a bad year we'll make less than 100, and we have no way of predicting how long the season's going to go or how much sap we're going to make or what it's going to be like. But it's a lot of fun. So when it's happening, I highly encourage everyone to come down and experience the sugar shack, because it's a really neat thing to be in there when the sap is roiling and boiling in the tank and boiling away, and we're making maple syrup. So, and plus it tastes really good. So we have a big pancake breakfast every year, usually the first or second weekend in March. This year it's going to be March 8th. And it's at Memorial School, and we cook pancakes for about 700 people with the help of some really crackerjack volunteers. So, so while that's going on, we're also reenacting Native American and colonial sugaring techniques on that day. So it's a fine time, and I encourage everyone in your viewing audience to come down.
That's great. Let's talk a little about an organic farm. What does that mean, and do you do some of the processes like what you mentioned about the maple syrup process versus the tubing process? Is that deliberate that you do it in a certain fashion and style?
Well, just to parse out your question a little bit, we are a certified organic farm, meaning that we go through a rigorous certification process every year to say that our food crops are grown without chemicals and synthetic input. Right. Our organic doesn't really apply to the sugaring operation so much because we are tapping trees all over town, and we don't have control over how those trees are fertilized and cared for so much. It's a very natural process, but it's not an organic one. But to be certified organic in this country means that you're meeting some pretty rigorous rules set forth by the USDA, and that you're inspected every year, and that you are vowing to follow natural practices. So it's important, and we're proud of it, and it's a selling point for our crops, I think.
That's great. So there's a certain mechanism that you try to use to keep those standards, and also the quality is very important so that people know, obviously, from whence all of this comes and how it gets to them from the process of making this crop.
Yeah, I think when you buy food from a local farm, you have a chance to know your farmer and ask him or her questions about how your food is grown. And when you're buying certified organic for food, you're getting a promise as well that that farmer has agreed to follow natural practices and things that are going to be in keeping with the earth and not as harmful. So sometimes organic food is a little bit more expensive, but it's really an investment in your community when you're purchasing it. So it's a good thing.
And you have a number of kids and students who do various kinds of work study or different kinds of community or orientation here, and those kinds of things to be able to get some credit and other kinds of ways to get people to be involved.
We get as many people involved in the farming as possible, and they are from age 3 to 83. And so some of the ways that people get involved is maybe they come here on a school trip, but some other, like high school age kids will come here for community service. Natick High School's been terrific about sending some kids here to do their community service before graduation. We work with college kids who need to do internships or work study. We have a job training program for adults with special needs like autism. Where they come with their job coach and contribute to the farm. And we have retirees who have just found us after they've left the workforce, who really enjoy contributing and being part of something, who come 3 days a week all year round. And we are dependent a lot on volunteer labor, which is it's an amazing thing that people want to come and help. So.
Right. And dedicated staff certainly to oversee the operation, and I'm sure that coordination and everything else in terms of volunteers and people getting involved takes a lot of work as well to be able to make all of that happen.
It does, but it starts with the simple act of showing up more than once. Linda has an expression which is, you're only a visitor here once. Mm-hmm. The next time you're either a friend or a volunteer. Well, it's a really interesting continuum. A lot of times people will come here first, they've got small children, they want them to see farm animals, then they realize we're selling food, so they become a customer. Then they become interested in how we're growing the food, so they start to ask questions, and then we encourage them to volunteer. Right. And suddenly they become a volunteer, and in the process they become an advocate and someone who better understands how good food is grown and raised and the value of farms and farmers and productive open space. Right. And it's a process, and they become longtime supporters of the farm, and they come to our harvest dinner, and it all works, it just starts with a single introduction. You never quite know where it's going to go.
Right, exactly. Thinking about where it's going to go, town meeting recently just voted in regards to long-term sustainability and looking at the management and continuing to stay here and so forth. What is that all about?
Sure. Town meeting just passed Article 33, which allows the Town Conservation Commission, right, which oversees us, to go about the process of negotiating a long-term lease for use of this property. It doesn't guarantee that that long-term lease would go to Natick Community Organic Farm, but it allows them to put out an RFP, which then we can then apply for. Yep. It was a huge step when this land became conserved, so it would never be developed. But it's also meant that for many, many years we've been sort of a tenant at will. We got a short-term contract from the Conservation Commission in 2009, and now we have an opportunity to apply for something that will give us long-term stability. There's a lot of grant and funding organizations who, frankly, wouldn't even really talk to us because we couldn't say to them, yes, we have the stability that we're going to be here. So a long-term lease, whether we win it or not is another story, but a long-term lease will allow the organization to really build some solid foundations and a future. So.
And speaking of solid foundations and fundraising and other kinds of supports, membership and other kinds of supports is basically how you've been able to sustain. What kind of structure does that follow?
Sure. We have a membership program here at the farm where memberships start as low as $35 and go up from there. And our members help to support our educational programs with their membership dollars, and in return they get discounts to our public events. We run the Harvest Dinner in the fall, we run Maple Magic in March, and Spring Spectacular in May, and membership allows them to get discounted tickets for all those. You get a 20% discount on our educational programs. So it's a good deal. I mean, there are quite good benefits out of it, and in return, you're supporting our mission of providing productive open space, farm products, and hands-on education year-round. Right. We do 3 big seasonal events a year, and those are both a celebration of agriculture and an educational opportunity. And in the fall, we have our largest event, which is the Harvest Dinner. It's going to take place on the 26th of September this year. The Wellesley College Club, who's a sponsor of the farm and a great friend of the organization, donates the use of their beautiful lakeside facility and their chef's time. We grow about 80% of the food that is served at that dinner, and we get donations from over 24 other farms, dairies, breweries who donate food to it. It's a really nice dinner for a good cause. It's almost every dollar that you spend on your ticket comes right back to the farm. So it's eating for a good cause is always fun. We have a good time with it.
Right, exactly. And of course staff, and you have board of directors and advisory board. Tell us a little about that structure and their involvement.
Well, we're a nonprofit, and we're required to have a board, and our board does a terrific job. We have some very hardworking and talented individuals who contribute their time and their sweat equity to keeping the farm viable and moving forward, and we're lucky to have them. We're always on the lookout for potential board members, and would encourage anyone who has an interest in helping out the farm in that capacity to get in touch. It can be a very rewarding experience. I speak from first-hand experience there because I was on the board for 12 years, and it taught me a lot of skills, and it's it's terrific to take an active role in the stewardship of something you believe in. So we know we reach a lot of people. We need a few people to step up and actively help shape our future, so that would be great.
We'll mention the phone numbers and contact information in a couple of minutes as we're winding down the program here, but I'm curious, Farm Art Gallery, tell us about that.
Right, so it's a fun space. We have a workshop that can, it's a multi-purpose room that we can have up to 60 kids come in for a class, and we use it for doing a lot of the preparation of the produce before we sell it, but it's also used as an art gallery. So every 2 months, a new artist comes in and hangs work on the walls of the gallery, and it's like the farm itself. The gallery is free and open to the public, and it's a really neat way for art to become part of somebody's experience here at the farm. For a lot of families with young children, it can be a first-time introduction to looking at art together as a family. We have very few rules about exhibiting. We just ask that you not put, like stick them on the walls to hang up your artwork, and that it be that what you're hanging up be explainable to our family audience. But having art in public spaces is a really valuable thing, and we put out a mix of, we support a mix of artists there. So we've had very first-time photographers exhibiting there, doing their very first show, to seasoned professional artists who just enjoy having their work in a farm environment. I think it's added a lot of richness to the farm. We've had some fascinating exhibits and been able to really encourage creativity in the community by offering this space. And if any work sells, a percentage of that sale comes back to supporting the mission of the farm. So it's yet another way that the farm supports the community and the community supports the farm. Right,
exactly. So check that out for sure and see what's available there. And you've got other opportunities here to be able to help people get involved and participate, and also to look at space and so on, which is great.
Yeah, it's a complicated place. There's lots going on. Have a look at our website and come on down.
Right. You are located at 117 Elliott Street here in Natick. How can people be in touch? You mentioned the website, so.
NatickFarm.org has all of our classes, courses, and what's happening. We have a monthly newsletter people can sign up for online. It's a good way to keep in touch. Yeah. And just come on down. We're open every day during daylight hours for visits and purchases, and encourage you to come.
That's great, absolutely. And of course, your phone number, 508-655-2204, is another way folks can get involved. And as you say, open during daylight hours and 7 days a week?
Yep, 7 days a week.
That's excellent. So plenty of opportunity, and right here, very conveniently located, and a lot of things. So if you haven't been in a while, come on by, and if you have, come back again, and if you haven't been at all, you'll be amazed, as we are to be here.
Well, thanks for coming down. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Tricia Ambrell has been our guest here on Conversation as we've been here at the Natick Community Organic Farm today, enjoying this great weather and enjoying this great surrounding and all of the activity that's here. Number of kids involved, school activities going on here, field trips, and so much energy. Come on down, take a look, and be part of it all year round. I'm Joe Weiss. Thank you very much for joining us here on Conversations. Thanks to Jeff Folletti for engineering this program as always, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.